Yay! What's up, family?
What's up, family?
What's up, family? If this is your first time watching, this is the show where we talk about everything, where everyone has something to bring to the table. Before we get into our special guest, we want to let you know that this is a safe space to have decent conversations, dope conversations, amazing conversations about life and the things that impact us all, but most importantly, the things that connect us. All right, so before I get into our guest, bro, how you been? It's been forever.
Yeah, it has.
You
man.
snotty.
Do-
Go. Tell them how you feel.
No, you already told him how I feel, apparently.
You feel a little snotty?
No, man. I do not feel snotty as of this moment.
You sound it.
I sound very nasally. Every winter, my sinuses just go haywire, and they just go crazy. So for the past probably 3 days, I've been dealing with just extreme congestion and the stuff that comes with that. The headaches, the drainage, the sore throat, just the nasal sound, everything. So, excuse me, outside of that, it's been business as usual. Just been in the gym, been working, and doing my best to save more dollars than I have to spend.
Oh, how's that been going?
It's a work in progress. So
Okay.
I'll say it's all right some days and terrible other days.
Yeah, and you snotty. I'm gonna just go with that part. You sound very like Roscoe from Martin. So
how have you been, bro? Let's.
I have been not snotty. So you know what? I have been really in a good place. I have been in a funk for some many months, but I decided to come out of it, and it's just been working. The last 2 weeks have been amazing. On Sunday, I had an opportunity to do a value-based leadership training with Oasis Church.
Yeah.
Today, I had an opportunity to interview to do some work with the LDS Church. So that was pretty dope. And then we had today, which is amazing. And then on Saturday, we're going to be doing some more work with the Finding Patience family, the LDS Church, and I would do a value-based leadership workshop at the Zetas Leadership Conference on Saturday in Greensboro. So I'm pretty excited. We got a lot of dope things happening. But enough about me. Let's talk about our guests.
I'm very musically inclined, yes.
Are they musically inclined? Are y'all snotty? Hey, guests.
Yeah.
Probably both.
If not now, in the next week or two, I'm sure we'll all get there.
Yes, agreed.
So why don't y'all go ahead and tell the people who you are, who you be, who you is.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so Matt Davis, been in North Carolina resident for longer than I can probably add on a calculator, but pretty much my entire life. I've known Dustin here for probably what?
Yeah.
6-7 years. I don't know exactly when we crossed paths the first time, but it's been a little while.
It has been several years, yep.
Been a lifelong devotee of just enjoying all types of music and enjoy to play music when I can. Did it a lot when I was younger and have found my way back to it a little later. So enjoying it.
That's
Nice.
awesome. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Jay.
And I'm Dustin Walker. Like Matt said, we crossed paths several years ago, and both had a shared passion for music. I've only lived in North Carolina for I guess it's been about 5 years. So that would have been when we first crossed paths. But I grew up like in Denver, Colorado. Been playing music my whole life. Same thing. Like started really young with piano stuff, then shifted into other instruments. And the two of us together, we once we met, we started to do this kind of crazy stuff. We decided it was about time we form a band and live out our rock and roll fantasies.
And the name of that band is
Idle Jacks.
Yay!
Yay!
So why is Idle Jack so important to us here at Love is a Parable?
Oh my gosh. Are you going to answer that question?
Are you going to answer?
So you probably saw, the in the corner of the introduction, our little logo pop up, and we in some form or another contributed to your theme song.
In some form or another.
Oh, okay. You're downplaying stuff.
Well, no, meaning that it wasn't necessarily a huge collaborative effort on our part. But it was with the creative juices of Idle Jacks. So a funny story about kind of the way this all came together was, Jay, I remember you texted me at one point and saying, "Hey man, have you ever written music before?" And I was like, "Well, I've dabbled, like I wouldn't call myself a songwriter. But I'm like, I could put notes together that sound halfway decent." And so then when you kind of told me the vibe that you were looking for, for this thing, to be honest, I was kind of like, yeah, that sounds good. And then life, of course, got crazy, right? So I'm not even thinking about it. And then when you were gonna roll out this new format for your show, I was like, oh shoot, like we got to throw something together. And so literally my kids were dying as they watched their dad go from instrument to instrument to instrument and hurry and lay down a whole bunch of tracks. I literally jumped on the drums. I grabbed my little organ thing, grabbed a guitar, grabbed the bass, and just started going. And it was like, okay, we got to get in that groove, right? Got to get in that theme song groove. And then to top it off, I was playing it for my kiddos, and my son, Crew, said, "You know what you need in there? Like a record scratch." And so he said, "Yeah, we do." Yeah, so we told him. So we put in that record scratch.
Bonus material. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. And I remember when you sent it to me, you was like, it's a little raw. And that's actually what I want, because, like the whole show, the thing, and a lot of people don't know this, and we were talking about it, was we wanted to go back to the 80s and the 90s type feel. We wanted that Family Matters meet Full House type vibe where people felt that type of connection. And yes, it might be a little older for some of our audience, but at the same time, it's coming back. Like the 90s for some reason is coming back with a vengeance. Like it ain't never went anywhere. Because my daughter is wearing the old MTV vintage shirts and talking about, about this? I'm like, I lived it, kid.
Well, that's 100%. When we started to form this band, we literally, I don't know how much backstory you want to hear, but our origin stories, right? We, Matt and I, we had gotten together and we had done a couple of things together on guitar for other stuff, right? Just other little side things we got playing. And then this keyboardist of ours, Rob, he moved in to the area. We found out about him. And so we had a night where we all got together and just kind of talked music, and we all got excited about it. We said, we should put a band together. But the three of us have all kind of cut our teeth on classic rock, right? Grunge, 90s alternative, the kind of really guitar-driven rock, right? And so that's, of course, where we wanted to default. But then we started talking about it, and we said exactly what you said. We said, you know what? Whenever you go and you see a cover band perform, usually they're playing the same old stuff. They're playing a version of Don't Stop Believin' by Journey. They're playing Sweet Home Alabama, Lynyrd Skynyrd. They're playing Bon Jovi stuff. You hear that from everybody. So we said, wait, what's popular right now? And just like what you said, it's like 80s, man. That stuff is coming back big time. Yeah. And we were like, and we got this sweet keyboardist. We got the elements to make something work here. Like, let's dive into that. And what was interesting was as we got working on it, Matt and I both had a moment where we looked at each other and said, this is harder than we thought it was going to be.
So what, I have questions. Let me go to these questions because I'm about to jump into them anyway. Okay. First question is, here we go. Matt, you can answer too, and Dustin. What made you want to become a musician? Ooh, let's go back to let me drop. I'm sorry. Mid-1900s.
Back when years were just 2 digits.
I remember going to my first Mozart concert.
Played it on the Victrola, right? Is that what we did? Yeah. It was an easy one for me. I had an older brother. I had several older brothers. One of them played guitar, and he wasn't anything like some virtuoso guitarist, but I just saw him playing guitar, and at age 13, I'm like, I want to do that, and so I just started picking it up, and I think he kind of left it behind at some point, and I just never put it down.
Oh, wow.
So
Awesome.
picked it up, and of course, you're going into those teen years, right? And you're like, what do the girls want? The girls want a cool guitarist that has hair. Now, back then, I had some, so that was the good part. So I had this much talent and this much of a mullet, and so that made me kind of right in the genre of where I needed to be at that time.
I kind of wish I would have knew this ahead of time. I'd have popped up a picture.
Oh,
So
there
there's
is
videos out there.
Today I have hair.
There's some very good blackmail material out there.
Okay. Before I ask my question, Dusty, you want to take a spin at it?
Yeah, man. For me, when I think back about the earliest thing, so both of my parents are musicians. My mom is a singer, sang in a rock band, and my dad is a pianist and keyboardist. So and also same thing. They play in a rock band even currently. And so when I was just a little guy, I remember my parents had this big stereo, right? A big record player, big vinyl player. So, and it had these massive floor speakers that had like no cover over the cones. So you saw the big exposed speakers, right? And so they would play. My dad is a big time progressive rock fan. So like he would put on Emerson, Lake and Palmer records and blast it. And I would go and I would literally put my head right in that speaker, like in the cone, and just be like, this is amazing. As you just hear these sounds, right? Go. I was like, that is the coolest thing ever. And so like Matt, I started with the piano because my dad wanted to teach all of us how to play the piano. So I started with the piano, but by the time I got to 14, I was like, I hate the piano. What do I want? And my parents were like, well, what do you want to do? You're musical. And just like Matt, I was like, I know exactly what I want to do. Electric guitar. For so many reasons. One of them also being, that's what girls want.
That's what we thought at the time.
Yeah, right. It's like when you're a 14-year-old kid, who doesn't want to play the electric guitar? And so dove into the guitar. Haven't looked back.
I love how you tried to find another way to say for so many reasons, and it was really one.
And it's really one. Yeah. I mean, I think every musician on the planet at some point decided I need to impress somebody.
Wow. And that's so funny because you had me thinking like the very first record that I remember hearing from my childhood was 777-9311. I'm sure there was other stuff, but for some reason that stayed with me because my dad used to play that all the time by the time. And I think where I lost like really getting into, I had a brother who, he was like a music producer type thing, but really he was just a creative, like he could draw, sing, all of that. And I remember me and my brother that's right above me, he used to come home from the military and it was like boot camp. He would be like, you sing, you draw, now switch. He like told my brother like, you can't sing. And he told me I couldn't draw. He was like, you stick to singing. So I actually started listening to singing first. And my first record that I really used to love is one Michael Jackson. I can't remember the album, but it's the one that got She's Out of My Life on it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And New Edition's Lost in Love. And my brother used to sit there and make me sing. You know, back then you had old squeaky voice. So I started out in chorus first. And it helped because Tevin Campbell came out on the scene with Tomorrow.
Yep.
So those who didn't have any bass, it really helped us a lot at that time.
That's awesome. Well, it is interesting. There are those songs. Like I remember for me, when I really started to get going on the guitar, I took a little bit of lessons and I was learning kind of basic chords and basic stuff. But the song that was like my goal song for so long. It just stood out to me. It was the time, this was like 1993, 94 when I was really getting going with it. And so the song was it's very 90s grunge, but the Interstate Love Song by Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh yeah.
That great guitar intro, that song, when I hear that song on the radio, I was like, I want that. Like, I want to play that so bad. And so when I finally got to the point where I could play that song, I was like, I've made it.
There you go. See, I was
That-
going to say my first one was a little earlier than yours, but and I've never learned how to play it, but it was Van Halen's Eruption, right? On that
oh
first.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And you were just like, I've never heard anything like this before. I don't know what planet this guy is from that can make all these crazy sounds on this guitar. And of course, back then it was all audio. You hadn't seen a bunch of video on that stuff. It wasn't out, there was no on demand or anything, right? Nothing back then. So it was all just listening to it and just trying to imagine how he was doing this crazy stuff. And then come to find out later, it's all this tapping and bending and all this kind of stuff. And since then, it's been sort of a lifelong pursuit of trying to get within, 1% of the way toward being able to like do that, right? Yeah. So even though I'm probably never going to get there, that was probably the one that set it off for me. That, some Queen records, some early Queen records, were crazy with Freddie Mercury and Brian May and all that, just the artistic stuff. And for me, the crazy thing was I had an enjoyment of music at a young age. I took piano lessons like you did, Dustin. After 6 months, hated it, dropped out. Took it a year later, tried it again, hated it, dropped out. Got to 6th grade. This is like, I guess, what are you in 6th grade? 11 years old, maybe
something
12,
like that. Yeah.
Like that. And I'm gonna be a drummer. I'm gonna be a drummer. Drummer, that's where it's at, right? I'm gonna be a drummer. And they stick me in front of a xylophone. I'm like, I didn't come here to play no xylophone, right? And you get to the Christmas concert and you play these little coconut looking things. I don't know, like hoof prints or something like that. But I was like, not for me. But then when I finally clicked with guitar and things started waking up a little bit, that was it. And I'd probably have it every day. I'll probably pick one up just about every day of my life at this point. It's just part of it.
I did the same thing, Matt. I dropped out of keyboard too. In 6th grade, I was a 6th grade dropout on the keyboard, but I picked up the trumpet.
Nice.
And I played the trumpet for a year and a half, and I learned how to play the French horn and the cornet. I got first chair in state for the trumpet, and so I didn't want to play it no more. I was like, I did it. I need to find it. I got my blue ribbon, and I was like, I'm done. Because I didn't like marching band either, because I was like lugging all of this stuff and uniforms.
Yeah.
And then really, like you guys, there was other reasons why singing appealed to me. The chorus. Matter of fact, I remember my band teacher, her name was Miss Bronco, Miss Bronco, in case you're out there.
Hope you're out there, Miss Bronco.
It was just my imagination. Was that by the Temptations?
Oh, yeah. Temptations.
Yeah. So I liked the song so much, I ended up singing it. And she took me out of band and put me in chorus. And it was a show choir. And she was like, "You need to hear this boy sing." And I just realized I think I was kicked out of band.
Like, wait a second, I'm making a connection here.
Right, Miss Bronco kicked me out of band, and so I got into show choir, and that was like amazing because, man, you're acting, singing, and it's a whole bunch of beautifulness that takes place when you can sing and cut a rug.
Yep.
Totally. I wish I could sing like that.
It's stuff you wanted to do. That was the difference, right? You wanted to do this, right? And when you line up with something that just really inspires you, then it doesn't feel like work at that point. It doesn't feel like the monotony of practice. And I'll say this for vocals: I've never claimed to be a vocalist, but if I had my choice, literally, if I went to God, He said, "You got one talent, pick it musically, guitar." Or vocals, I would pick voice every time.
Man, yeah.
Well, Dustin, you're a vocalist now because you sung in Finding Patience. We heard you're a recorded vocalist.
I am. That took a lot of guts. Well, because I'm like Matt. Like I used to sing when I was younger, and then same thing when all of a sudden my voice decided it wanted to be much lower. I lost kind of my, like I couldn't find my voice again. I kind of struggled to find a note. I still feel like I can't really sing very well, but I'd like to do it. And I have plenty of times where I'll be in my office, like playing on the guitar, and I'm singing full voice, and I'll see kind of my wife give me a side eye, kind of like, she's like, you might want to listen to yourself for a second. And, but I like it. And so when Finding Patience came up, I remember I auditioned 100% to say, I'm not going to touch any vocal stuff. I just want to just be in a play. It was kind of a personal goal of mine. I was just like, I just want to do something. That came up. Let's do it. And then when I showed up to the audition, I did not have a musical number prepared at all. And we sat there and they said, well, do you want to do a musical bit? And I was like, nah, I don't think so. And then Angie, the director, and Jeremy, the music director, they both said, I kind of feel like you should just try, though. That's literally what they said. They were like, why don't you just try something? And I'm like, okay, why not? Sure, whatever. I think of like, so I dove right in and I did the song If I Were a Rich Man from Fiddler on the Roof. Because I was like, we're doing a play, right? So I might as well do like a Broadway song. So I totally start singing it, and I'm doing all the hand motions as I'm like scooping invisible poo. I'm like, if I were a rich man, and I just start going into it. And we got done, and they were all like, awesome. And then, of course, I end up getting like not one, but not two, but like 3 or 4 singing parts.
A billion. He got a billion.
Yeah, it was awesome. But it was great. I loved it. It was such a great way to like going through rehearsals and having somebody who could sit there and coach and say, hey, wait, your voice wants to do this. Like Jeremy was such a great music director because he was like, look, we here's the bones of the song, but the song needs to be yours. And I loved how he said that. He was like, look, if it's in the key that doesn't fit your range, we'll shift it. If your voice wants to do this, we move it. And so it was so cool. But then he would kind of challenge you and he'd say, you can do this. Drop your voice here. And so I loved that. That was awesome for me.
And of course, we became friends because me and Dustin at the end had to gaze into each other's eyes and lift up patience. I think it was forced friendship.
We were like every night we had to stare at each other. And we also had this moment where we weren't supposed to do this. The choreography asked us to. I raised my left arm and you raised your right, and we were supposed to just bring our hands together like this, like right. But we couldn't help it because we were so close. We wanted to high five so badly. so at the end of every show, we slowly started just going dink and high fiving, and we see Angie and Desi, the choreographer, right, and they'd kind of look at us and be like, but then we kept doing it, boom, and then finally, like the last week of the play. We wouldn't even high five. Now at this point we were going and then slowly doing this. We were like holding hands.
I wish I'd have known about that.
Yeah. Only people who saw the play multiple times even noticed it. We were like, nope.
Yeah, we got away with so much. And then his family was in there and they were like cheering us on. Like his family. That was your auntie and uncle, right?
They were like, yeah.
They were like, yeah, we love it. Okay, look, we got some comments. Tara said, hey, Tara.
Hey, Tara.
You remember Tara from the video shoot?
Totally.
And then Lisa, hey, she said yes. I don't know what she said yes to. Hey, Lisa.
Yes to everything, Lisa.
What's up, Deshaun, man?
Hey, Deshaun said, I played the alto sax, the piano, flute, drums, and what? Hold on. And had vocal track. You know he did all this? Mm-hmm. Oh, was this when y'all had this? Was he dancing with you too? Mm-hmm. Oh
no, sometimes when he was younger, and then he might have been doing some of the. I don't know if he was doing some of that when we first met back in Guam. I'm not sure. That might have been all before that. I'm not sure. But I know he was very musically inclined.
And he's from LA, so I think that's just you have to do that if you're in LA. I think. Huh?
well, maybe. But Deshaun also produces music too.
He's nice.
Deshaun, we need to hear music so we can go. So check this out. Switch up just a little bit. One good thing about music, when it hits you, you feel no pain. Bob Marley. What y'all think about that?
Ooh, I love that.
That's true. We talk about Dustin and I and the other band members. We talk about what are we trying to get out of this? What are we trying to do? And ultimately, you're trying to get the audience to feel something, right? It's what you do in your play. You're trying to get the audience to feel something because music is going to carry that emotion, right? If it doesn't carry emotion, there's really not much point to it, I don't think. And it's one way that you can provide emotion. You can transfer emotion from one person to another, right? So it can be a wonderful thing that way. And so I think about that. you're right. Because if you take that piece of music that hits you, and you just go to that happy place in your brain, maybe it's a memory of something that you have from before, or you just appreciate this piece of music because for whatever reason you love it, your brain just wraps around it, and it doesn't have time to think about all the stresses and the things and the pressures and everything else like that, right? It takes you to a place that's where you want to be. And I think that's one of God's great gifts of why music is even a thing, right? It's a way to provide love to one another and
awesome.
and move you emotionally.
Yeah, man, Matt nailed it. And we do talk about that a lot as a band, about we want to take our crowd, even though we're playing like danceable, kind of very pop maybe type songs, we still want to take people on a journey, right? We want to take them through an experience or bring back some emotions that they might have had when they were younger, that kind of stuff. You know, this quote, immediately my brain went to, what was it? Just last year or something like that. My wife and I went up to New York City, and we were able to go see, speaking of Michael Jackson, we saw the Broadway play MJ on Broadway. And, you know, it's this whole story of Michael Jackson. And I remember from the second the curtain lifted, they start bringing out this live band that comes out on the stage. And these actors that were playing Michael were incredible. First of all, they were like, I felt like I was literally watching a Michael Jackson concert. But the music, the second that first song hit, the music was so dialed in. I don't know whoever the sound guy was, I don't know what he was on, but he was seriously like so dialed in to every single sound on that stage that you heard every note, every instrument, and it did it literally. That's the only way I could describe it to people after the fact. It's like the music just hit you, and you were so overwhelmed with like every possible emotion, and the way they just did it was phenomenal. And I remember coming out of that, and I was like, I had never been on such like an adrenaline high, but also on these really crazy lows, like the way they were able to bring out this really raw, sad emotions, even through songs that you never would have thought. Like they do that song, Man in the Mirror, and they did it so well that music, you're literally bawling. You're bawling your eyes out, and you're like, this is nuts. And so, but like what Bob says right here, right, Bob Marley, but it's not painful. It's a cool experience. So I love that.
Have y'all ever like had that moment? Did you want to add anything to it? You still snotty? He's like, I'm just here for moral support today. Like, this ain't my show today.
I'm not musically inclined. I mean,
you a dancer.
That's not musically inclined.
If you ain't got no rhythm, you can't dance.
That's true.
I've always this emotion and does capture you in moments, but I don't, but it's not painful. It's just, it just hits you in a different type of way, and I think that's just why music is so powerful, and that's why musicians who are good at what they do can just make people feel certain things, whether it's in concert or just in their songs people are listening to.
Yep.
So you had a talent, like if you had, would you pick the instrument or would you pick voice?
I pick instrument because I've always thought that one, playing the drums is really, really cool. Mm-hmm. And also just the guitar, or even like the violin or like a cello, that kind of coordination along with listening to the music and playing at the right time has always been really, really awesome to me. And I've known some drummers and some people who play, I don't know what you classify those instruments as. I'll say the chorded instruments, the guitar and yeah. What do you say? What do you say?
What'd you say, Dustin?
Dustin?
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah,
You said the chorded instruments.
Yeah, I just said chorded instruments. I don't know what category.
String instruments.
Yeah. String instruments. Yeah, strings.
Okay, string.
It's literally all I'm playing strings.
Okay, yeah. So my bad. See, I'm not musically inclined. So, but yeah, I've always thought that took a lot of talent and a great ear. So I've always admired that. So I would pick an instrument over voice just because that's my personal preference. So.
And that's the only reason why I picked drum. I mean, I didn't pick drums because I remember looking at their sheet and I saw them little X symbols and I was like,
Like, I can't look at that.
That ain't gonna work for me. I'm like, give me that trumpet. Let me play these 3 little valves.
Anything with a spit valve is worth learning.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Until you realize how disgusting it is, and then you're done. You're like, this is so disgusting. I don't miss that part, and I don't miss what it did to my lip. So I don't miss any of that. Let me see what we're gonna do next. Okay. Y'all ready for another one?
Yeah.
Yeah, bring it.
Okay. What is it about music that makes you feel passionate?
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah. I would say for me is, I mean, I think the human existence is you need to find ways to express yourself.
Yeah.
And people do it in a myriad of ways, right? It's the spoken word, the song, art, dance, music, people that build things. I mean, whatever. There's 1,000 ways that you can, create, get your creative juices flowing. You can get something out there and produce it so that someone else can enjoy the production of what you've done. And so, to me, music is one of those things where if it's done well. And I think you can probably relate this to dance too. When you're doing dance and you're in the moment and you've practiced this thing 1,000 times, you're not thinking I've got to move my arm like this. It just happens. It's going right from your brain and your body just does what it's supposed to do because it knows, right? And when you get to a level of musicianship that I think, I still try to aspire to, and every now and then I kind of flirt with it a little bit where I'm not thinking about notes anymore. I'm not thinking about the mechanics of what's going on. You are basically hearing the thing that you want to do in your head, and your hands just do what they're supposed to do to produce that effect. Yeah. And when you can do that, and again, if you have somebody on the other end of that that's enjoying it, they're feeling it. That's about it to me. Next to romantic connection, that's about as intimate a connection as you're gonna get with somebody. If you can make them laugh or cry, or you can make them, feel that memory or something like that, it's and tap into those emotions. I mean, that's where it's at. And I think that passion of being able to do that, it really drives me. And at the end of the day, the other thing about music is it's the joy of the production of it to me, right? If I have one person listening to it, that's great, but that isn't what drives me, right? What drives me is the actual act of producing it itself. It's like if I was a painter, I might paint something that nobody ever sees, but I'd still enjoy the act of painting and looking at it myself, right? Same thing for music, just the joy of it by itself, I think.
Nice. Yeah, I'm similar to that. I think where you were talking about there at the end, it really resonates with me too. Like, I think for me, like, I'm such a ridiculous extroverted person that I get so much energy out of others and out of my environment. And so when I got going with music, so much of it was because of the performance aspect of it. Like, I love performing music. And so, like, I remember even at a young age when I got my first guitar and I'm sitting there in my bedroom and I only knew like a 3-chord song. I was like, so I didn't care if it sounded terrible. I needed an audience. I wanted to invite people over because I'm like, dude, you got to hear this. Like, check this out. Because I loved the reaction and seeing that in real time. And so as I got deeper and deeper into music and more performing it, those times like what Matt was talking about, when you see the reaction of a crowd, when you see the reaction of the people in the room, even like when I'm playing and I see my wife walk by, even that little side eye look, it's still a reaction, and I respond to it, and it makes me want to play better, right? Because I'm like, oh, that wasn't quite right. So it's like instant feedback. And there are these moments where, as a band, in every band I've played, and especially with this band, when you have a moment where you've all been working on your bit and you've all been practicing separately and alone together, but then you come together and you get going on the song and you get to the part that was kind of hard for everybody, or the part where you weren't quite on last time, and it hits, you all feel it together. And like what Matt said, it's this very intimate thing where you all get the shivers, or you all get goosebumps, and you finish the song, you look at each other and you're like, did we just do that? That was awesome. And it's just this cool thing. And so, like, I think for me, when I think about other forms of art, like painting or something like that, I know for me personally, I might struggle with that because I would want to sit next to my painting and see how people respond to it all day long. I wouldn't go anywhere. I'd want to see them. So that's why, like, I think I really responded to like doing the Finding Patience play, for example, because it's such a cast audience interaction. And so same thing with music. I love what makes me passionate is the performance aspect of it, of being able to prepare something and get that reaction.
It's so funny you're saying that because I'm the total opposite. Like I'm naturally actually an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
Force myself to be an extrovert.
Right.
And so, like I don't care for other people's reactions.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do it really selfishly for me. And like I don't even know what to do with compliments. Like when people come up and like, you're so great, you're so this, you're like, thanks. Like you don't know what to do. Like, especially if they keep going on and you like, I don't say it thank you once. Like
yeah.
And then I love how and people don't realize like when you're lost in music, have you ever had that moment where you're lost in something musically happening? And then when you look and you're like, oh, people are here still. Y'all done messed up the moment.
Yeah. You get in that flow. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because I remember wanting that reaction from people has actually backfired on me for sure. Because, because you do have those different trains of thought, right? You've got some people who say, well, you should do it for yourself. Like you should make sure that first and foremost, it's for you, right? Like that should feed you. And then you got this other side. And it's interesting because when you look at like, very legit artists and very legit bands, you'll hear both sides as well. You'll have some people who say, well, I wrote this for me, right? This is my therapy. This is my happy place, whatever it might be. And then you've got other people who are like, I do it for the fans. And I remember at first thinking like, well, when they say I do it for the fans, that's just lip service, right? They just want to make us feel good. But then I realized, well, wait, but I kind of am doing that a little bit too. Like I realize I want to make people happy like that. I want to get that reaction. So like I do that does work for me too, to recognize that. But certainly there are the elements of like, well, no, sometimes it is for me, where I'm maybe developing a new skill. Or one thing that was big for me was I remember I challenged myself one time where I was like, I'm going to spend a whole week listening to a genre of music that I don't normally gravitate towards, just to gain an appreciation for it. And that was country. I was like, I'm not a huge country fan. So I listened to nothing but country for like a solid week. And after that whole week, I was like, country is legit. I was like, because like you start to recognize it. So then I challenged myself further and I went to a jazz concert because I was like, jazz is weird. What is up with jazz? And before you know it, I was like, these guys are awesome. And so I think, it's just like, I don't know. It's such an experience.
But a lot of people don't realize, like, when you start talking about certain things like bluegrass, gospel, even rock, all of them are spinoffs of one another. Many say a lot of it came from gospel, and it has been refuted by some, but they typically agree. It's all ways of telling a story.
Yeah.
I think my music that was hardest for me to appreciate was heavy metal, because they don't really do heavy metal anymore. But the true heavy metal era, I was like, but what are they saying? And I have a cousin.
Yeah, it's a bit hard.
Carolina, and he loved like Metallica, AC/DC. It was another real big one. Not because Bon Jovi was kind of soft. They wasn't heavy metal.
No, they were like hair metal. Yeah.
It was like Metallica. I was like, what are they saying? And he knew what people were saying. And I still don't know to this day what they were saying without looking up the lyrics. That was probably the hardest for me to appreciate. But now when you go back, I think anybody who grew up or was a part of the mid 80s to the mid 90s really had the most concentrated music experience. Because I feel like everything was at the top of his game during those times.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's interesting because there are certain genres and certain styles that really, I think, resonate more with the masses. And that's because, just like you're talking about like a minute ago, there's something very primal about certain styles of music. And when you think about like the roots of pretty much all music is exactly what you're saying. Like you can, there's a timeline, right? Oh yeah, thanks, Sarah. That's more of this for you. I knew she'd appreciate it. Sarah's a fellow extrovert like me, and we have to kind of make some noise sometimes. She has the benefit of changing her hair color all the time.
Yeah, she does. She changes it like
I would do that here, but
like it's a little plug-in, or something. She's like, I'm gonna change my hair color again. A man said he loves Metallica.
Metallica is pretty fun, but when you look at like one of the things that I remember, I did like a really deep musical theory thing one time in like the psychology of music, and when you think about like your heartbeat, right? Like our resting heart rate is like 60 beats per minute. If you just sat there, right, and you took your pulse, and it's like a 4/4 beat. It goes boom, 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 at about 60 beats per minute. When you look at the most popular songs that are on the radio, the ones that people always dance to, do you know how fast they usually are? 120 beats per minute. Exactly twice your resting heart rate. And they actually did some studies that if you sat down, put a heart rate monitor on, and turned on dance music at 120 beats per minute, your heart rate naturally rises to try to meet the beat because it wants to get there. And your body starts to feel it. And so when you look back at like the roots of early music, it was all drums. You look back at like old, tribal tunes and stuff, and like Aboriginal stuff and stuff that was coming from Africa, and then, started to come from these different countries and continents. It was all drums because it was such a joint experience where we would all feel it together. It was this, and then everybody would start drumming in. And then, so of course, as that music starts to develop, well, boy, you put some lyrics on top of it. And that's where you start getting gospel music, right? It's like this praise music with this beat behind it. And then they slow it down. And all of a sudden you start to get like some blues out of it. And then they speed it up. And all rock is sped up blues.
Yeah.
It's just, they just take the same chords, sped it up, and gave it a louder drum beat and an electric guitar. And but you still feel that same rhythm. And then so when you have music like heavy metal, you listen to the drum beat, try to follow that drum beat, and it's and our bodies react to it in a way that feels unnatural. We're like, ugh, but some people are like, yeah, but then you listen to like some music like prog rock and stuff like that, where it has a really strange tempo to it. And you're like, how do you even dance to this? You'll appreciate that, Cordell, right? Like, you're like, how do I dance to this? And so it feels unnatural. But when you think about it, it's like that was the intent. The whoever made that wanted you to feel what you feel, which is not like necessarily comfortable or natural, but it comes down to that heart rate. It all comes down to that heart rate.
Prog rock, for me, is kind of like modern art. You look at it, it's like it's different. And you appreciate it for its differences, right? It's not meant to try to go that same route. And so, when you've got these weird time signatures like 14-9 or something crazy that you just can't seem to follow along with, it doesn't seem natural. But it's kind of like, all right, we've only got, if in Western music, you've got these, 12 tones, right? Essentially that we use. And then we repeat those 12 tones in segments up and down. And, you're going to stay with a beat that's somewhere between, probably 60-ish or a little lower on the low end and 150 on the highest end or something like that. And so it's like, well, what can we do with this? And so I think that's where sometimes you get into those offshoots of music, is to say, all right, how do we take these same components, throw them up in the air, bring them back down in some weird combination, and yet somehow it can still come back to resolving to it, to the spot where you think it should. And I think that's where, a great story has an awesome, intro that builds, it gets more complex, and then eventually there's this crescendo, and then it resolves to something, right? A happy ending, a sad ending, but it wraps it up. I mean, don't you think some of the most frustrating books you might have read or movies you've seen is when the ending becomes undefined? And you're like, I don't care if it would have turned out well or terrible. Just give me the end of the story. I have to know.
Right.
And I think that's the same thing with music. Music kind of tends to follow that same pattern, right? And you have to bring it down at the end, and you have to figure out a way to resolve it. And even that prog rock stuff, somehow typically will find a way to resolve so that it comes back to where you think it should, and kind of gives you that satisfaction of kind of tying up a nice little neat package.
Love that. Sarah said,
The Van Go-Go's.
Yeah. Look, Ahmed said, see, he's snotty. That's why. He is not in the mood today.
Both of y'all chill. This is my listening face. I'm listening to musicians talking about music.
Yeah, he's like, internalizing it. He's
exactly.
He needs one of them NATO pods. But I forgot what I was gonna say because that joke was funny when he said it.
Too busy being petty.
What you say? I didn't hear you.
You know what?
So, what is your favorite genre of music?
Oh man,
that's a tough one, right? I think early on it probably would have been just regular sort of straight up, not heavy metal. I mean, I guess I could get into the AC/DCs and stuff like that, but the real guitar based rock is what I grew up on. A lot of people my age kind of grew up on that. But the older I've gotten, just like I think Dustin was alluding to, I can appreciate so many different genres of music, and I will do the same thing Dustin does, which is let me just go and branch off into an area of something I've never heard before. And that's why I love, when basically now it's Spotify or Apple Music or whatever came about, is that, my goodness, before you'd have the radio, and the radio is going to play with, it's going to have its guardrails. It's going to play something right in here all the time. And yes, you could switch radio stations, but you're still going to get the curated music that, the labels want you to hear. And you'd have to go to university radio and stuff like that to try to hear things that were unique and different. And now with online, YouTube, Spotify, these artists on TikTok and everything like that, man, you're hearing all sorts of wonderful new music that you never would have heard otherwise. And so I think, the question of what's my favorite genre has to be, which is interesting because 80s tends to be kind of a lot of sequenced and produced, computer assisted, things that go along with it. But my favorite music is anything that shows like true artistic talent. And that's when I kind of go back to vocals, right? The vocal is the most pure instrument on the planet, right? It is the one thing that we have built within us that can produce beautiful music, and it can convey all sorts of emotion. But anything that has a musical talent, like I want to see a singer-songwriter get up there and actually play the instrument, whether it's piano or guitar, whatever it is, that shows that you spent time crafting that. You didn't have auto-tune and a computer and everything else like do it for you, and you just kind of did karaoke on top of it, right? You're actually having to show that you actually spent time learning your art and developing it. So I can appreciate anybody that is going down that route.
What you got, Dustin?
Favorite genre? Probably like elementary school recorder music. Either that or the sitar. Just listen. No, I think I do kind of have a formula that I gravitate towards, like that I recognize that I really like how this sounds, and I kind of want it. Every time I've ever kind of developed a band or gotten into it, I find that I gravitate towards a specific kind of formula, and that tends to be like good solid drive-in drum beat, funky bass, guitars that aren't afraid to get a little experimental, and usually like a strong female vocalist actually. So like I'm talking, I think that really started to hit. I'm kind of a pretty heavy product of like 90s alternative rock. That's where I learned a lot of my guitar, and so like I'm pretty solidly influenced by that. But we're talking bands like Garbage. I'm obsessed with Garbage. I think they're great. And then more current bands like Paramore and stuff. I love that format. And so I kind of I tend to gravitate more towards like alternative rock, also a little bit like indie rock. That's just like those are my happy times. So whenever I'm just wanting to listen to music, that's where I'll go. But bagpipes make me cry. And that's not a joke.
Play poorly, they make me cry too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's a saying. I have a deep Scottish heritage, and there's a thought that if the bagpipes make you cry out of emotion, then yeah, you've got a lot of Scottish blood in you. But yeah, if they make you cry for any other reason, then you're just, normal.
So is that why you had that bagpipe playing in our intro?
Yeah, pretty much. I had to squeeze it in.
Ode to my heritage.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite genre, bro?
I'm partial to. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm partial to rap, but I also like funk.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's more from the, I guess, the dance aspect. I mean, funk you can do multiple styles of dance to funk music. So, and I've always liked it just because, and also the aesthetic that goes with funk, the linen pants, the blazers, the brims.
Oh, it's a whole thing.
Yeah. So I would say, I would say rap, but also I like funk too. Yeah.
Yeah, Dustin knows we've tried to play funk a couple times and we haven't quite got there yet.
I need to be at a rehearsal. Can I be at a rehearsal when y'all play that?
We need you guys to help us with funk.
Yeah, we have not pulled it off yet.
Yeah. However you want, that's a whole separate discussion, I'm sure, about why we can't play funk.
The interesting thing is, like, Ahmed, who's on here, he's a rap artist, right? An amazing rap artist. Yep. Let me go on and say that now. He's amazing, but he really is. But his videographer and friend, best friend, Mo, plays several different instruments, and they're Middle Eastern.
Yep.
And so their rendition of certain instruments, like, I don't know what it looked like, a accordion. What is that thing called, man? It looks like an accordion. They got to blow in it and squeeze it and play the keys with it.
Right.
And it's like amazing.
Yeah,
but when you hear it, it gives you that Indian sound a little bit, but it also gives you like the Southeast Asian sound as well. So you can kind of see it. And so I was sitting there thinking, just when you guys were talking, I was like, if we get these musical geniuses together, imagine the music. Yeah, that's what he said it's called.
Harmonium.
Harmonium.
Oh yeah,
that thing is like amazing because it doesn't.
Looks cool.
It's amazing. And so I think that if more people, like, I want to go to like a music like jam fest, like people just lose their mind in music, kind of just doing different ways of being creative.
Isn't that just called Coachella?
No, I mean, it's not like a session though, like where people just go in rounds, and play together. It's like you go watch. That's a concert, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But he said about hip hop,
right?
I like hip hop, but I'm more of a fan of the 90s. Sorry. 90s hip hop artists to me are better. And it kind of ties into, I don't have a genre, but no matter what music it is too, I go for lyrics first and vocal ability. I want to know that you're saying something of substance and it sound good too.
So who's your favorite 90s hip hop artist then?
My favorite 90s hip hop artist, of course, anybody who knows me, my favorite of all times is CeeLo Green of Goody Mob. And so I'm going to go with Goody Mob, CeeLo of Goody Mob, but then I'm going to go with Outkast as my second. Then I'm going to come back to Goody Mob. CeeLo, Outkast, then Goody Mob. So 90s is like my thing. And I even listen to 90s music and I have my kids listening to it now because the lyrics were there. The vocal ability was there.
Yep.
But you know what I like? They had all the different mechanics of a song.
Mm-hmm.
They had a vamp. You had a chorus. You had a hook. Now they don't have anything. They have a verse, a chorus, and then the song is over. It's like 2 minutes and 33 seconds.
You might have a hook. You might.
Yeah.
That might be the song, though. The hook. It's nothing else going with it.
Yeah.
Songs are turning into those 60-second things, right? We got 60 seconds on TikTok, and
that's what it is. Get a soundbite right.
You got to catch it quick. Yeah.
I will say
that's right.
The trend of the under 3 minute song is one of the worst trends ever in music across all genres. songs that are like 2 minutes and 20 seconds. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
If I can listen to your album in my neighborhood and not make it, if it's not a road trip, it's not a good album. Like I didn't even make it out of Raleigh, and I'm listening to your album already.
Yep.
30 minutes, a whole album.
Yeah, your album is 35, 40 minutes. No thanks.
Okay, Ahmed said Eric Clapton, Peter Frampton.
Solid.
Jessica said, why does the bottom word of the day is Fleek?
Hey, Fleek. Well, because that's right. Wait, we should have yelled because didn't Sarah use the word Fleek earlier?
Yeah, she used it properly, and she showed Matt.
We haven't pulled it out yet.
You missed the memo, Jessica.
My favorite genre is alternative funk music. Randomly, it's calm.
It is calming.
She said, she play a mean recorder.
Recorders are underrated.
Yeah,
new age classical. Yeah, and that's funny because when we're riding together, he will play some Yanni. It'd be like, this sound
like a little Yanni live at the Acropolis, right?
Evanescence.
I used to love their stuff. I have
Paramore, yes, Jessica.
Yeah, and Paramore still hitting.
Yeah, Paramore, man, they're back on tour. Yeah, one of my genie wishes. Actually, you know what? Now that I mention it, though, we tried so hard, and the white boy part came out too strong, and that's why we had to stop.
We got a long way to go on that one.
Look, Sarah said it like a drum circle. We need to do a music circle. Can we make one? We need to curate a music circle.
We could almost get a 4-part barbershop harmony. Yeah, we could be barbershop right here.
Yeah, 90s created the most amazing humans, whatever.
Wasn't
look, see, they know
CeeLo. Last year's Super Bowl was a 90s who's who for hip hop. That was amazing. Because what?
Yeah,
remember
I
that?
love how they put it together too.
Like Snoop Dogg showed up, Jay-Z showed up, Eminem showed up.
Like he was 79 cents.
Yeah, 50 cent. Yeah, 50 cent was out 79 cent. That was amazing though. It was like, they just kept coming out.
Yeah.
Oh, Tara said Enya. I forgot about Enya.
Enya's solid.
Sarah said not the barbershop.
No, don't. She's like, don't do it.
Oh, guys, we done made it. We done made it through the whole show. It's been an hour already.
Wow.
See, we got in the musical zone. We got in the zone.
Yeah, we're going to have to get y'all back.
Hey, here's a fun fact about barbershops. Do you guys know why barbershop quartets were a thing?
No, tell me.
Because you know how the outside of the barbershop, they have that pole, the red and white barbershop pole? That was because barbers used to also be the dentist for the town. So you would go get your hair cut and your tooth ripped out. Well, anyways, people didn't like walking down the street and hearing people screaming in the barber. So they would put people outside in the front to sing music to cover up the sound of the screaming. Look it up.
Wow.
Are you telling me that is real? That's a real thing.
That's legit.
Wow.
And you would think liquor stores would went up because I would get the patients drunk first. Okay. Look, somebody said hi, Dad.
There you go.
That's awesome.
But let me tell you what's so funny when you start meeting people that have similar names. Like my older brother, his family is Davis. So I got a whole I got a whole family of Davises. So anytime I see Davis, I'm like, who is that? That's not my cousin.
We're all cousins at some point.
Right.
Dig deep enough, yep.
So the best way to keep in touch with you guys is on the Idlejack website.
Yes, idlejacks.com.
Which
IDLE Jacks.
We got it.
JACKS.
And guys, we got that in the comment. Yep. So that's how you can stay up to date with them. Go check them out, get some merch, find out where they're playing and wear the merch, even if you're not at a show. Support Idlejacks in any way that you can. Guys, I'm so glad that you had this opportunity to come on today. Come on. Haha, what's up, family?
That's the new tagline, right? We are cousins at some point. We're all
I like it.
I love it too, man. I might steal that, Matt, but I'm gonna give you credit. I might not give you credit, but I might.
Because I said, "What's up, family?"
Okay. Go ahead. What you about to say?
No, I was just gonna say when I was recording your theme song. At first, I was gonna try to add a little "What's Up, Family," but every time I did it, I sounded like what's the Insane in the Membrane guys again?
Insane in the
Membrane.
Insane. No.
House of Pain.
House of Pain.
No. Anyways, somebody will write it in the comments. But I kept going. It kept sounding like that to me every time I listened back to it. I was like, I can't sit because I kept going. What's up, family? What's up, family?
Well, guys, we're gonna go ahead and close out the show. I do want to thank you guys for coming on. Guys, like I was saying, those who are viewing, definitely get an opportunity to support Idle Jacks in any way that you can. But I hope that you learned today that music is on fleek.
Yeah.
And music has a way of connecting us and bringing us together. And I really do believe what Matt said. Like, hey, we are family. We're cousins at some point. So I think we should start doing things that bring people together. Start listening to music and sharing your music choices. Matter of fact, share this with somebody who may love music that we want to get to know. You know what I mean? Or get to know Idle Jacks. I mean, they are local.
Right, exactly.
Yep. So we can check it out. Any closing thoughts, Snotty?
You know
Search
what?
Snot a lot?
You know what?
You want to blow your nose. You want to say
I'll just say, man.
You've been waiting out for that.
Yeah.
I'll just say that if you guys haven't, checked out their music, do so. But also, just check out different genres of music. I mean, what do I say? It's really just being someone who's traveled a lot and experienced different cultures and different music styles. It opens a lot up. It opens up a lot just in the mind and also in the spirit when you experience different genres of music, because you're experiencing different stories when you experience different genres of music. So just go check out different things and definitely check out Idle Jacks, because there are people you can run into out and about like real time. And that to me is always really dope. I've always liked supporting local musicians because those are people you could actually go and talk to.
We're a lot of fun. We have a blast.
Yeah. So that's it.
Well, everybody, we will see you guys sometime in December because we won't be here next week.
Nope.
We're going to be grubbing at somebody's table because it'll be Thanksgiving.
All right.
See y'all later. Thank y'all
Hey,
for coming.
thank you, gentlemen. Good times. Fun to be here.
Enjoyed it.